breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Tanner Kern, who does great work over at DraftKings. We're going to be chatting with him about some teams that he's feeling a little bit bullish/bearish on. You have to take a look at what is a very, very murky playoff picture right now, and we'll dive in with regards to the American League playoff picture as he's based out there in the lovely city of Boston. So I have to talk about that and so much more in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, large CM maybe does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, but everything here is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. When you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25, and you earn cashback rewards as you utilize EdgeBoost as well. So something that is very rewarding there. And what else is rewarding is taking a look at this great game of baseball day in and day out. Let's take a look at everything that we saw in this great sport on Friday, try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Blue Jays have been the top over team in all of baseball. This game was a little bit underwhelming though, as Kevin Gausman, great start for the Blue Jays, 7-1. They take down the New York Yankees. Gausman gives up a solo run over the course of 8 innings of work. Meanwhile, you did have a scoreless inning from Braden Fisher after that, and Vlad Guerrero Jr. does go deep off of Ryan Yarbrough, 23rd home run season, and the home run that the Yankees were able to get off the bat of Giancarlo Stanton, 19th home run season. As for Cam Schlittler, not long for this game, 4 runs allowed in 1 2/3 innings. From there, Ryan Yarbrough, 5 1/3 innings. He does allow that home run, but only gives up a 1 run over the course of 5 1/3 innings. Mark Leiter Jr., Camilo Duvall, both came in for an inning, both gave up a run, but the Blue Jays looking to be able to take hold of that AL East. They do find a way to be able to get the job done, and the Guardians get the job done. They win by a kind of 7-1 over the Tampa Bay Rays. If you like me at the over, have to feel salty about this one, 5-0 in the top of the second inning, and then the game dies into oblivion as I'm not sure why the Rays utilized an opener for Ian Seymour as Griffin Jacks gave a scoreless inning, but he gives up 5 runs, but only 1 of which was earned in 4 innings. Now, it was on his own fielding error, but he looked a little bit like a fish out of water with an opener in front of him. Mason Montgomery, Kevin Kelly both led a scoreless inning, and Brian Van Beal, he gives up a home run, 2 runs in total over the course of his 2 innings of work. As going deep for Cleveland, you had Austin Hedges get his 5th home run in the campaign. Kevin Williams gives up a home run in his 7 innings of work as Junior Caminero, home run 41 of the campaign. From there, Tim Aaron, Keith Smith, they both led a scoreless inning, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, they now are 1 game above 500, so trying to be able to claw their way back into that American League playoff picture. And the Philadelphia Phillies, they persevere over the Miami Marlins, this by a count of 9-3, as Christopher Sanchez gives a good start of line, just 1 run in 7 innings. Tanner Makes does give up 2 runs in an inning, including a bomb. Going deep for Miami, home run number 1 of the season for the backup catcher, and Brian Navarretto, hopefully I said that correct, congratulations to him. But from there, you were able to get also a scoreless inning out of Tim Mesa, and for the Philadelphia Phillies, it was home run derby in this one. Home runs number 15 of the campaign for both Max Kepler and Harrison Bader. Brandon Marsh's 9th home run season, Bryson Stott his 10th. As for Miami, this was a piecemeal game with Valentin Beloso being the bozo that pitched in the first few innings. 3 runs allowed over the course of 2 innings. Lake Bakar goes for 1 inning, gives up a pair of bombs, 3 runs in total over the course of his inning of work. You did have scoreless innings out of Seth Martinez along with Michael Peterson, great name, and Josh Simpson. He came in for 2 scoreless innings, and George Soriano, his rough season continues. He gives up 4 runs over the course of his inning of work. And for the Seattle Mariners, they've been your second best over team in all of baseball. 75 overs, 61 unders, and 5 pushes, and they were unable to get anything going against the Atlanta Braves. 4-1, the Braves get the job done as Chris Sale, great start here, but did not get the win. Gives up a 1 run in 6 2/3 innings as the Braves were able to erupt for a 3 spot in the 8th inning. Dylan Lee was able to give it out of the bullpen. Tyler Kinley, Braisio Iglesias, they both under scoreless inning. And for Seattle, this was a pretty rock solid start from Logan Gilbert, giving up 1 run in 6 innings. And then Gabe Spire has been pretty solid out of the bullpen this year. 3 runs allowed, did not get a single out of the bullpen. Matt Brash, Carlos Vargas, they both on to scoreless inning, but Braves find a way to persevere and get the win, and the San Diego Padres shut out at Coors Field. That's not great. 3-0 the final in this one, as for Nick Pivetta, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings at Coors is pretty solid. He did give up a home run along the way to Hunter Goodman, 28th home run season. David Morgan, he gives up a run in inning, and Alec Jacob a scoreless inning, but absolutely nothing doing off of Kyle Freeland, who he got into a fight a few days ago, and then he goes out there, hurls 8 scoreless innings with 10 punch-outs, and then Victor Vodnik a scoreless inning. So, not great there for the San Diego Padres. Not great here for the Boston Red Sox. The Arizona Diamondbacks get a 10-5 win over Boston. Peyton Tolley, well, he did not have it in this one. Gives up 5 runs over the course of 3 innings, including a pair of home runs, as Geraldo Perdomo gets a 17th home run season. Then Eliermo Vargas, his third. Corbin Carroll a little bit later on off of Justin Slayton, his 30th home run in the campaign. Slayton gives up 4 runs in his inning work. Greg Weiser gives you a scoreless inning, and Chris Murphy, he does go for 3 innings. He gives up a run along the way, and Eduardo Rodriguez gives up 1 run in 6 innings. From there, Ryan Thompson, Andrew Selfrank, and Taylor Rashid were able to give you a scoreless inning, though Bryce Jarvis, he gave up 4 runs, and he did not get a single out of the bullpen. So that was a little bit less than savory for them. A rare 12-inning game out there in Texas, as the Astros fall to the Texas Rangers, this by a count of 4-3, as for Houston, Colton Gordon, he only goes for 4 1/3 innings, so the bullpen had a lot of usage here. He gives up 3 runs, all of which were earned, including a home run. Going deep for the Walker Texas Rangers, Jake Berger, welcome back off the injury list, 13th home run season, and then AJ Blubaugh was able to come in for 2 2/3 innings scoreless. Brian King, Brian Rayu both give you a scoreless inning. Craig Kimbrell, Stephen Okert, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Lance McKellis Jr. comes in the 12th inning. He gives up an RBI double that ended the game, and for the Astros, 2 of 14 with men in scoring position, though. Carlos Correa was able to get his 11th home run of the campaign. That comes off Chris Martin, who gives up 2 runs in an inning after Merrill Kelly, really good start. 1 run allowed in 7 innings. Phil Matone, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Sean Armstrong, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, and Robert Garcia had a scoreless 12th inning. That got them to the window. Also getting to the window, the San Francisco Giants trying to creep their way back into the National League playoff picture. 8-2, they take down the St. Louis Cardinals, as Carson Seymour, 1 run allowed in 5 innings. Tristan Beck, in long relief, gives up a home run over the course of 3 innings of work. Going deep for St. Louis, Ivan Herrera, 14th home run season, and you were able to also get a scoreless inning out of Matt Gage. And for the San Francisco Giants, pair of bombs of their own. Rafael Devers off of Michael McGreevy, 31st home run in the campaign, and McGreevy gives one up to Willie Thomas, his 27th home run season. McGreevy, 6 runs in total allowed in 4 innings. From there, Grayson Garacifo, 2 scoreless innings. Chris Roycroft, Andre Granillo, a scoreless inning, and Ryan Fernandez does give up 2 runs in his inning work, as the Giants well back above 500 and clawing their way back into the playoff picture, as the LA Dodgers continue to slide. This is now their 4th straight loss to teams that are 10-plus games below 500. 2-1, they fall to the Baltimore Orioles. Shohei Ohtani actually makes a surprise start. Was not bad here, not a lot of length, but 3 2/3 innings scoreless. Anthony Banda from there gives up a run in an inning. Ben Kasparis, he gets a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Jack Dreyer, Blake Trine, Michael Kopech lend a scoreless inning, and then Tanner Scott, he gives up the walk-off home run to Samuel Basallo, the young gun for the Orioles, his 2nd home run in the campaign, and Dean Kramer not long for this game. He goes for 3 scoreless innings. Diedrich Enns from there gives up a home run in his 2 innings of work, as Freddie Freeman gets his 19th home run season, but the Dodgers just continue to struggle at the plate, as Kate Stout, Grant Wolfram combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Rico Garcia, Ynier Cano, don't you know, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they put to a halt the Pittsburgh Pirates winning streak. 5-2 the final, as for the Brew Crew, they did not have any home runs whatsoever, and as a matter of fact, they go 3 of 20 with men in scoring position. They leave 12 men on base, but they still win by 3 runs, as Quinn Priester was solid. 2 runs allowed in 7 innings. Jared Koenig, Ebner Uribe from there, both on the scoreless inning. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you don't mess with the Yohan Oviedo. 1 unearned run given up in 5 innings, as he was actually pretty solid. Jared Trollo had a pair of errors out there in the field, though, and Carmen Bolodzinski, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings. Kyle Nicholas, he goes for a scoreless inning, but Yohan Ramirez, Colin Holderman, they both give up a run in an inning, though Holderman had an unearned run given up, and for the Pirates, 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. So if you had the over in this game, these 2 teams went a combined 4 of 30 with men in scoring position. Don't see that very often, and you saw both of these Chicago teams be able to get the win on Friday for the Cubs, 11-5 over the Washington Nationals in a rare day game, so love that. Jake Irvin, 7 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs, as Reese McGuire gets his 8th home run season. Dansby Swanson his 22nd, and then Connor Pilkington allows a home run to Ian App, 20th home run in the campaign, and Nico Horner goes deep off of Sinkusi Ogasara, his 6th home run in the campaign. Ogasara, he gives up 2 runs in 2 innings of work. Pilkington, a home run in his inning, and then Jackson Rutledge, scoreless inning of his zone. Orlando Rebalta, bare outside the bullpen, he allows a run, and then you had Mr. Luis Garcia get his 12th home run season. That comes off of one Javier Assad, who gives up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Caleb Theobar, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Andrew Kittredge, Taylor Rogers, Porter Hodge, they all end a scoreless setting, and then for the White Sox, they persevere over the Detroit Tigers, this by a count of 7-5, and all of a sudden the White Sox have been able to get a little bit hot with their offense, as Colson Montgomery has been a big reason why. He goes deep in this one, 18th home run on the campaign off of Kadir Montero, and then Bailey Horn gives on up to Andrew Benintendi, also his 18th home run of the campaign. As for Detroit, you had Jack Flaherty give up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings. From there, Horn gives up a solo home run in his inning of work. Kadir Montero in long relief, 2 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, and Tyler Holton in out of the bullpen scoreless. And Austin Meadows was able to go deep off of Shane Smith, his 3rd home run on the campaign. Smith allows 4 runs in 5 innings, but bullpen from there was solid. Jordan Leisure and Tyler Gilbert both give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Dan Altavia, he gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning of work. And then you did see the LA Angels fall to the Athletics at home, this by a count of 10-4. As for Jose Soriano, he's had some very big home and road splits, and man, he got torched in this one. He got 7 outs, and he gave up 8 runs, all of which were earned, including a home run. As going deep for the Athletics in this one, it was home run number 13 of the campaign for J.J. Bleday, and then Andrew Chafin gives one up to Mr. Lawrence Butler, his 19th home run of the season. Chafin, he gives up that home run in his inning of work. As Jose Urena in long relief, 5 scoreless innings, good on him, and Ryan Zephyr-Young gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning of work. And for the Athletics, the young gun was able to do enough to get the win, as Mason Barnett, not necessarily a thing of beauty here, he gives up 4 runs in 5 innings, including 5 walks, but good enough to be able to get the win. Justin Cerner, 2 scoreless innings. Elvis Alvarado was in the building along with Michael Kelly, as both of those guys were able to give you a scoreless inning, and not a lot of scoring out there in Kansas City. 2-1. They're able to take down the Minnesota Twins, the Royals are, and the Royals, one of your best under teams in all of baseball. How about 59 overs, 80 unders, and 2 pushes? As for the Kansas City Royals, you had this team do just enough off of Pablo Lopez to get the win. For Lopez, coming back for his first start in quite some time, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. He was solid. Did give up a home run to Miguel Garcia, 16th home run season. The problem was Michael Wacha did not give you the dying Pac-Man voice. 5 2/3 innings, he gives up a run. From there, John Schreiber, Daniel Lynch combined for a scoreless inning. Taylor Clarkin out of the bullpen scoreless, and Carlos Estevez, Anel Zerpa both on the scoreless inning. And for Minnesota, you had scoreless innings out of Cody Funderburk along Justin Topa, and then you saw the Cincinnati Reds get the bases loaded in the 9th inning with no outs and not capitalized, to lose by a count of 5-4. As for the New York Mets, David Peterson, rough start here, 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, but from there, Ryan Stanek, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Brooks Raley, Tyler Rogers, and Edwin Diaz all on to scoreless inning. And for Mark Vientos, he goes deep off of Andrew Abbott, 16th home run on the campaign for Abbott, gives up 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Bullpen from there was solid. Connor Phillips, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Emilio Pagano, scoreless inning. Nick Martinez, 2 scoreless innings, but for the Reds, they stranded 9 men on base, and that proved to be very, very costly for them. And what has been costly for you, if you've been betting them over the last few weeks, have been unders, as it has been a very overwhelming last 30 days in Major League Baseball. Overs sitting at 53.3%, 200 overs to 175 unders. Money line favorites in the last 30 days hitting at 56%, 218 and 171 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 7 days, favorites are just getting torched. 44 and 47. Underdogs have won more games outright than favorites over the last 7 days, and the under rate in baseball over the last 7 days brightened around about 47.2%, 47 overs to 42 unders. Meanwhile, if you look at the entirety of the baseball season, the under rate were around about 50.9%, 1,030 unders, 992 overs. Meanwhile, if you're looking at money line favorites, right around about 56.6%, 1,185 and 908 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat with our good friend Tanner Kern about this very murky playoff picture right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Decent Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Decent Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Tanner Kern aboard. He does such an excellent job over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, but really he does a bit of everything. He's a 5-tool player over there at DraftKings. You need a little bit of UFC, he's got you there. You need him to take a look at football, he's got you covered. He does a great job on the basketball front. Heck, I think that he was doing a little bit of hot dog eating handicapping when it came to the 4th of July as well. So really a guy that checks all the boxes. A man that you're able to follow on the old Twitter/X at his first and last name, Tanner Kern. Last name spelled Kern, and then an underscore. And Tanner, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Thank you for joining me, Tanner. And Tanner, it is wild right now what we're seeing in baseball. As we're about 3 weeks away from the postseason sort of bracket and the standings being set. And really, other than the Tigers, who they have a sizable lead out there in the American League Central, it feels like everything is herky-jerky. Like we thought that the Dodgers would run away with the West. That has not happened. The American League East has turned very intriguing. Brewers should be able to win the NL Central, but they've looked a little bit wobbly recently as well. And I just want to get your overall thoughts on the playoff picture because I can never remember it being quite this open.
It's going to be a really great playoff season because we truthfully don't know who is the favorite in each league. I think the Dodgers are obviously a team that's going to turn it up when it comes to playoff time. They have a lot of big game playoff experience, and they showed that last season they were able to convert without a great pitching staff. So I can't count them out in the National League, but it's still a wide open league. The Phillies, the Mets, the Brewers, the Cubs, the Padres as well. A lot of teams in the mix. I think anyone can win the National League, where at the beginning of the season, we weren't necessarily saying that. We were saying anyone can win the American League. In the AL right now, the New York Yankees, the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, definitely a little down the Red Sox without Roman Anthony, but those are three teams that can compete. You have the Detroit Tigers, Houston Astros, Seattle Mariners tending to struggle a little bit unexpectedly, as a lot of people thought they were going to be the favorite after what they did at the trade deadline. So just two leagues with a lot of unknown results right now. It's really hard to predict who's actually going to be the team to represent the AL and the NL in the World Series.
Yep, it certainly is going to be. And the AL East, I think, has become one of the most interesting races because for the Blue Jays, they've been leading it for quite some time, but they've looked wobbly recently, especially with that bullpen. The Red Sox have been able to make a little bit of a surge, but they had that rough series over the weekend against the Pirates, and the Yankees all of a sudden gaining upward momentum with the wins that they've been able to get over the last week or so. How do you take a look at this overall race, especially with the Yankees and the Blue Jays doing battle in a series this weekend?
Yeah, I think the Red Sox have one more series against the Blue Jays. I believe this could be the last one between the Yankees and the Blue Jays as well. But it comes down to head-to-head wins right now. 3.5 games is a pretty sizable league just based on the competition in the American League. Overall, with the schedule remaining for the Blue Jays, Yankees, and Red Sox, it's not overly difficult. So if the Yankees or Red Sox want a chance to win the American League East, they need to win their head-to-head games. The Blue Jays, well, you know what, 5-5 in their past 10 have not necessarily been the Blue Jays that we saw post All-Star break that's run away with this division. They're still holding that lead, and it's been sizable. 3.5 games is the tightest it's been. It was more 4, 5, 6 games for a lot of the second half. So I think the Blue Jays are still going to find a way to hold on to this division and keep it. I don't see a lot of threat with the Yankees. They tend to shrink in big games, and right now with the Boston Red Sox, without Roman Anthony and their bullpen pitching staff just has not been the best with guys like Jordan Hicks. It's going to be hard for the Red Sox to catch up there. So I'll take the Blue Jays. I think they hold the lead.
Yep, and with the Toronto Blue Jays, well, the bullpen has been a little bit shaky. Man, that lineup has been solid. Even though Dalton Varsho doesn't really hit for a lot of average, he's been able to hit for a lot of power. And just how do you take a look at the entirety of the American League when it comes to the playoffs as well? Because a big fear that I do have with the New York Yankees as well is that they are a team that very much relies upon the deep ball. And with a team that relies upon the deep ball in October, as the weather gets colder, those balls that maybe were flying out during the summertime may not be so much in September and October. And that's a big fear that I do have with them, not just here in this series against the Blue Jays, but a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah, I don't look at the Yankees as much of a threat. I think they need to play at home to be really dominant. If we get that 3-game wild card series and they are on the road, that's going to hurt them. Right now, looks like they're going to take that fourth seed and ultimately host a 3-game series. But that's why I think the Tigers are definitely the most well-rounded team in the American League, or the Mariners for that regard. It's the teams that have deep pitching. The Mariners, if they can put it together offensively and really put everything together, I think they're in a really good spot. But the Tigers have just been that consistent team. You got Tarek Skubal coming out first. Jack Flaherty's been okay this season, not great, but I do trust him in a big spot there. Casey Mize as well. They're pitchers that not necessarily have been super dominant this year, but overall the Tigers have been able to win by playing team complementary baseball, and I think that's ultimately going to help them in the playoffs. And anytime you got a Tarek Skubal coming out first, should win that opening game, and that just sets you up really well in playoff series.
Yep, absolutely. And the starting pitching, I think, is going to be so key moving forward because I do take a look at the landscape of both the National League and the American League, and a lot of these offenses have been very touch and go, like with the Milwaukee Brewers. Even though they lead the league in terms of run production away from them, I don't know if you can necessarily rely upon that, and I do think that overall depth is going to be able to win out with regards to some of these playoff series, and when you got a guy like a Tarek Skubal, that's amazing for the Tigers, but what they're going to be having around him, I think, is a big question mark as well, and that's a big reason why I do feel a little bit bearish about the Tigers because while you've got Tariq Skubal for 2 games in a 5-game series and a 7-game series, you might be able to throw him for 3 games if everything breaks correct. The rest of the guys around him have been very shaky, and with the Tigers, there's a lot that I like about them, but at the same time, the guy's not named Skubal, and the way that the bullpen has been performing has been a little bit of concern for me too.
Yeah, and I understand that, but having Skubal coming out first is huge. The Astros have a guy like Hunter Brown who's been great. Framber Valdez has been okay. I would put him more in that Casey Mize category. Christian Javier, he's been solid. Like, I would give the Astros an edge in the pitching staff. Right now with the New York Yankees, pitching wise, you got Max Fried coming out first, but like losing a guy like Garrett Cole at the beginning of the season really hurts them when it's going to come to now in the postseason. I think we're going to start to see that. The Red Sox don't have a chance to compete with their pitching staff. That's just what it is. I don't trust Lucas Giolito or Brian Bayo in a playoff series. So I think everyone's kind of in the same spot in the American League pitching wise. Like, there's not one staff that jumps out to me and I'm like, that is by far the best staff. You have 1, 2, 3 that's going to come out, shove, and win baseball games. I mean, you would think it would be the Seattle Mariners right now, but that's just not necessarily the case. I mean, Brian Woo's been fantastic. Luis Castillo has been okay, right? Every team's kind of got one stud and then a few guys that are good to okay. So that's why the American League is so wide open right now, pitching wise and offensively. You got a lot of teams on the same playing level.
Absolutely, as we do have Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, and currently we don't have any openers for this one, but on Saturday it looks like it's going to be Jacob deGrom versus Hunter Brown, which that's going to be a whale of a matchup right there. And when it comes to the Texas Rangers, do you think that they might have a shot if they're able to sneak into the playoffs? Because going into Friday, 72-69, about 5.5 games off the lead over the Houston Astros out there in that American League West, but they're a team I think could have a little bit of upside if they get fully healthy. Obviously, they're not going to have Nathan Eovaldi, but even without him, Jacob deGrom, Merrill Kelly, that's a really good 1-2 punch. And if everyone is able to do their part around them, you've got a great manager like a Bruce Bochy. I think that could be a team that's a little bit of a sleeper. That could be a rise up in that American League.
Yeah, I mean, when they won the World Series, they were a sleeper too. I wouldn't have called them a team that a lot of people thought were going to get it all done there. And looking at this year, 1.5 games back right now for the final wild card spot. I think Seattle definitely has the talent edge, and if for Texas to get in, it's probably means Seattle is not going to be in. So it's hard for me to say Texas is going to be in because I still believe in the Mariners so much, even though they haven't been able to put it together yet. So I'm going to kind of disagree there. I think if they get in, maybe they can make a little run. I just don't necessarily think they're going to get in.
Yep, I think that's probably going to be the biggest issue for them as well, because with the Texas Rangers, it has been up and down with regards to what we've been seeing out of the lineup, albeit much better ever since the beginning of the month of July, but they've been dealing with some injuries with Corey Seager and a few others as well. As Tanner Kern, who does such a tremendous job over at DraftKings, he's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then when it comes to the National League, I do feel like it might actually be this simple. If the Dodgers are fully healthy, I do think that they have to be the top team out there in the National League, even though they've had their struggles. They lose a series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, which that's not great to say the least, but I think the big question is, are they actually going to be fully healthy? Because for Shohei Ohtani had his start skipped a few days ago. For them, they dealt with a whole bunch of injuries when it comes to the bullpen. Obviously, they were hoping for Roki Sasaki to give them something. That has not happened thus far this season. Max Muncy being out of the fold has really impacted this lineup, and I think that there's just a lot of question marks on that front as well, where with the Dodgers, if things go fully right and they get healthy, I feel like they're the team to beat once again, but if not, I think that it causes for open season.
Yeah, I mean, in a way they are healthy, Greg. I look at all the injuries that you just mentioned. That's one thing, but like Shohei Ohtani is going to be ready to pitch in the playoffs. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is going to be pitching the playoffs. Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell. Like that's a great rotation coming out for a playoff series because you don't need everybody. You need your starters to be able to go deep and consistently win games, and I think they'll be able to do that. And then offensively, when you have Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, just those three right there, you are probably more dominant than a lot of teams in baseball, especially with the supporting cast that they have around those guys. So I think the Dodgers, I totally agree, they should be the favorite right now. It's hard to repeat in the World Series and win back-to-back World Series, but this team has so much playoff experience, and they've lost so many times in the postseason too. I think which makes them even more deadly as well.
Yep, and when it comes to that LA Dodgers team, they have just so much experience. They obviously won the World Series last year. I know that a lot of people are saying, oh, 2020 did not count. Well, now they've got another one under their belt as well, and they've got so much of that core back from a season ago as well. So that's going to be very intriguing. And is there maybe a team or two out there that you're looking at as a little bit of a sleeper? It can be in the National League or the American League that you do feel like can make a run, because right now it is very much an open postseason. There's a lot of teams that are still fighting for playoff spots. I just mentioned the Texas Rangers a few minutes ago. Is there a team or two that you're looking at, whether that's from a futures perspective to be able to make the playoffs, or just betting on them game to game, thinking that they might be able to make that run to be able to make the postseason, slash, if they're right now in a wild card spot, perhaps be able to overtake and win their division?
I think it's the Houston Astros if I had to pick, just because of the experience that they still have. The core is still there. You remove Alex Bregman from the fray this year, but you still have a lot of good guys that can hit the baseball.
They bring back Carlos Correa.
Bring back Carlos Correa. So really, I mean, if you added in Alex Bregman, who now he's testing the open waters in the offseason, this Astros team is pretty complete. Hunter Brown looks really good as your ace coming out. Framber Valdez, Christian Javier can still sling it. You got your three guys right there. You have a bullpen that's capable enough, and you just have that playoff experience. You have a tough environment at home to play in for opposing teams. I think it's Houston right now, and I wanted to say the Mariners for so long, but I just haven't seen them take the next step since they made all the acquisitions to start the second half. So I'm going to go with Houston. I think that's my, not that it's an under the radar team, but it's one that not a lot of people are talking about right now. I think we're more discussing the teams in the wild card mix. We're not talking about the Astros because they have control of the AL West, but I think Houston's a team to watch for in the American League again this year, as they always are.
And I'm glad that you mentioned the Mariners as well. How much of a fear with them is them being just a little bit all or nothing? Because and Eugenio Suarez and Cal Raleigh hit for a bunch of homers. And Raleigh, to his credit, he's done a solid job of being able to draw walks, but it feels like those are home run or bust guys. And when it comes to postseason, I feel like that's a style in which it's very hard to win with.
Yeah, it totally is. And their pitching staff's good, though. Like that's the thing about the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller. Like, they have guys who can pitch. Not saying Bryce Miller is the best, but like it's still a guy that you probably can move the bullpen and get something out of. But when you got Logan Gilbert and Brian Wu going at it, I mean, those two guys are sensational. I love watching them pitch. So while they are boom or bust when it comes to the offense, that doesn't necessarily lead to a ton of wins because they need to be powerful every single night of the week. And I think we're seeing that right now as they chase down that wild card spot. But they do have the pitching to win games in the postseason. So I would say that if they get in, they have as good a chance of anybody. I was very high on Seattle based on what they did, but this is a team that doesn't usually go for it. So now they're in a position to go out and win baseball games in October. And they don't have that experience doing that. So that could be the reason that they don't get it done.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that it's going to be such a interesting last 3 weeks here of the regular season and the postseason. It's going to be a lot of good, clean family fun. I know you're getting set for it, Tanner. And Tanner, I know that you're going to do a great job on the football front this season as well. You're getting all psyched up there. You, much like myself, do an amazing job on the college basketball front as well. So let the good people at home know what's on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, so you can find me on the DraftKings Sportsbook social pages every single day, and then on my personal handles at Tanner Kern cross-platform or at Tanner Kern _, and then Ride the Line, my podcast with our friend Grant Mitchell, on Tuesdays and Fridays, and you just find that wherever you get your podcasts.
Absolutely. And Tanner, he does an absolutely tremendous job with Grant on that podcast. Tanner, every single time he joins me, lends such amazing insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is always a pleasure to be joined by Tanner Kern, who does such great work over at DraftKings, taking a look at this great game of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So big thanks to Tanner for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter /X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we start out at Wrigley Field, 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Cubs, and they're going to be playing us to the Washington Nationals. Brad Lord says, "Oh Lord," to getting another start for the Nationals, and Matthew Boyd is on the bump for the Cubs. Cubs are very sizable favorites here, anywhere between -250 to -270. Right now, no run line price is up because, well, we don't have any totals up. This is a Wrigley Field game that's going to be based on the wind, and we're between +213 to a +223 is that number on Washington. And if we can get to, I would say, a -125 is what I'd be looking at in terms of the Cubs run line. I did set their money line price at a -241, so right in that neighborhood. I think when it's all said and done, we should get there. As I did set my total at a 9.3, a 9 or less, I'll be in on the over 9.5 prior to the under. Looks like the wind is going to be blowing out slightly, but it's going to be a little bit more directional. It's going to be a little bit more directional than it was yesterday, but it's still going to be relatively heavy, and Matthew Boyd has been a very rock-solid pitcher for the Cubs all season long. A 2.94 ERA is coming off of giving up 4+ runs at each out of his last 3 starts. 2 of those starts were on the road, and 1 was at elevation at Coors, though, and he overall for the season, Mr. Boyd, has done a nice job of just not making mistakes. 2.1 walks, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and he's got a 2.94 ERA with a 3.39 fielding dependent. Meanwhile, Brad Lord has actually been a relatively nice find for the Washington Nationals. Things have been going a little bit sour for him recently, as he gives up a combined 14 runs, 13 of which were earned in his last 2 starts against the Rays and the Yankees, but all in all, 4.34 ERA, 3.98 fielding dependent, 1 home run, 3 walks allowed per 9 innings. Not a strikeout artist with about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but have been liking what he's been able to provide for the team. And it is a Washington Nationals bunch that has actually been able to a little bit better when they've been away from home rather than at home. For the Nationals this far this season, they're averaging fewer than 4 runs per game at home compared to about 4.5 runs per game away from home. CJ Abrams, he's got 17 home runs this far this season, and all but 3 of them have come on the road. James Wood has been able to give you good wood as he's batting for about a 350 on base. He's been able to slug out the deep ball, 25+ home runs. And Josh Bell, since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 250, as overall for the season, that's more like a 230 average. But he's been able to do a solid job of being able to provide some good offense. The young guys like Brady House, Robert Hassel, they just have not been able to give you too much. Andres Shapiro, these are all guys with a 275 on base or worse. Dylan Cruz has been banged up all season long. And then for the Cubs, the team has been in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game since the All-Star break, but yesterday was perhaps able to get them busted out. Dansby Swanson is up to 22 bombs, hitting about a 250. You still have good on base with some of these guys. Even someone like an Ian Happ, Michael Bush, Nico Horner, I'll give you at least a 335 on base. You've been able to get good production out of Kyle Tucker. I know he's been booed a little bit, but over a 375 on base. And then Pico Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, 27 and 28 home runs apiece thus far this season. And for the Cubs, this continues to be a bullpen that's in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of ERA, as you've had the likes of Caleb Theobar, Daniel Palencia, Andrew Pomerantz, all be able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Now, you've had Taylor Rogers have his issues recently, but overall, it's been relatively solid. And for the Washington Nationals, man, you just don't have anyone in this bullpen that's really any good. Jose Ferreira has a sub 5 ERA, I guess that's something good. And PJ Poulin has not been too bad, but the guys that came in yesterday, like Shinkuzi Ogasara, Orlando Rabalta, Jackson Rutledge, man, you got a whole bunch of guys rocking in over 5 ERA. So do think that the Cubs should be able to dominate this game at a -125 or better, willing to lay that run line, and then 9 or less, I'm in on the over 9.5 or higher. The under 953, 954 on the card. The Phillies are on the road. They're facing off against the Miami Marlins. Sandy Alcantara is on the bump for Miami, and Jesus Luzardo is on the bump for the Phillies, and Phillies are between -147 to -157 favorites, and between +128 to a +137 is that number on Miami, and the total is 8. The over and the under are both at -110. In terms of the money line of the Philadelphia Phillies, I did set this at a -155 right now. That run line price is a +108 over at FanDuel. I would like to see this be able to get up to closer to a +110. I set mine at a +107, so +108 is the bare bones minimum that I'm willing to take, but once all said and done, should be able to land on that Philadelphia Phillies run line, as Jesus Luzardo, I do believe, is a guy that's due in for some positivity. We saw him on Sunday Night Baseball a week ago. He was very rock solid for the team as he went out there 6 2/3 innings scoreless, so that's a good sign, as he's right now got a 4.05 ERA, but a 3.03 fielding dependent, has not given up the deep ball. 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 10.5 strikeouts, 3 walks per 9, so he's been able to do a good job of supplying that in for Sandy Alcantara. If you look at the full season numbers, man, they are not great to say the least. A nice hearty 5.66 ERA with 3.2 walks per 9 innings, but he has been much better recently. 1 or 2 runs allowed in each out of his last 4 starts, and the swing and miss stuff is back. 6+ strikeouts in each out of his last 4 starts, so all of a sudden he's starting to get something going, and he has been far better when he has been in Miami rather than on the road this year. 4.58 home ERA compared to a 7.24 ERA on the road, and at home is giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, and goes up against a Phillies lineup that just simply has not been the same when they have been away from home. They're averaging about 4.35 runs per game at home. That is number 2 in all of baseball. Their 4.18 runs per game away from home is actually in the bottom 10 in all of baseball, though Kyle Schwarber continues to give you 4 bombs, 49 home runs. He has been rock solid with over 100 RBI, 370 on base, so you know what you're going to be able to expect there. And then you've got Trey Turner down for what, hitting at 300. He's been able to swipe over 30 bags this far this season. Bryce Harper's up to 23 home runs, 360 on base. Really the lone guy outside of Schwarber that's been able to give you over 18 home runs this season, but Harrison Bader's hitting for a 300. You've had quite a few guys be able to move the line, like an Alec Bowman at 275, Brandon Marsh in that neighborhood as well. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, it is a bit of a revamped bullpen. You bring in Yohan Duran. He has been very rock solid for the team, as he, Orion Kirkering, Matt Strahm, David Robertson have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA. Jose Alvarado is back for the regular season and not the postseason, but just having him for this game, that helps him out as well. And then for the Miami Marlins, this has been a bullpen that's been the upper half of the big leagues since June with regards to their ERA. So many guys that typically can give you multiple innings, like Lake Bakar, Ronnie Enriquez, Kate Gibson, Tyler Phillips, have all been rock solid. They've all been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. They've been doing some injuries to Anthony Bender, but overall it's a relatively solid bullpen. The big thing for this team, though, is that Kyle Stowers, their main home run hitter, remains on the injured list. That's not great for them, to say the least, but you've got Xavier Edwards giving you a 340 on base at the top of the lineup. Otto Lopez, he's been able to do a relatively solid job in terms of finding a way to move the line and give this team 12 home runs, as with Stowers out of the fold, he's second on the team in home runs. Augustin Ramirez, 19 home runs, but hitting just a 229, could use a bit more there. Liam Hicks has been able to give you a 350 on base, but some of these young guys have come up and have been able to give you some good production. Jacob Marcy is hitting well above a 300, so that's been relatively solid for the team. Troy Johnson has been able to hit about a 275, so I've been liking what I've been seeing there. I do think that for the Miami Marlins, they're going to have a little bit of a tough time getting to Luzardo, and I do think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. Set by total 7.6, like the under, and with the Phillies at a plus 108 or better. Looking at that run line, 955, 956 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They play also the New York Mets. Jonah Tong is on the bump for the Mets, and Brady Singer hopes to have the Mets singing the blues, as for the Reds, they are between a plus 104 to a plus 110 underdog. They're between minus 118 to a minus 126 is that number on the Metropolitans. 9 is the total. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. I did set the Mets as a slim favorite at minus 106, so being able to get right around about a plus 110, I would be willing to take a shot on the Reds on the money line, and I do think that this is going to be a nice pitcher's roll here. I did take a shot on the under. I'm at an 8.4 with regards to my handicap total, as you've had Jonah Tong just be absolutely tremendous at the minor league level, and in his MLB debut, he gives up 4 runs, only one of which was earned. He was hurt by a few errors out there in the field, but got 6 strikeouts in 5 innings, and I liked what I saw out of him. He did not give up any walks in 5 innings as well, and you just take a look at the way they dominated the minor league level this year. A 143 ERA with 14.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he was giving up 0.2 home runs per 9. Just absolutely amazing right there. And then for Brady Singer, I mean, it's a case where this guy has been able to really hone in recently. For Brady Singer, it was a little bit of a rough start to the season for him. If you look at the overall season ERA, it's currently at a 4.08, but I mean, this is a man that has given up 0 or 1 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. He's only given up a combined 5 runs in his last 4 starts, and has really been able to get back on the straight and narrow. He's given up 300 runs or fewer in, I believe, now 14 out of his last 17 starts, and for Singer, he's given up a few more walks than what you'd like, 3.3 walks per 9 innings, but swinging and stuff is back up, 8.8 strikeouts per 9, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9, and this is a Mets lineup that could be a little bit streaky. You do have a quartet of guys who have been able to give you 20-plus home runs at the top, with Juan Soto up to 39 home runs and Darnier 400 on base. I mean, that guy has been living up to his billing right now, as he's been rock solid there, and then you've got Pete Alonso, who's been able to give you 33 home runs. Soto actually had 37 home runs, not 39, oversold him, but still doing a solid job. 3 250 on base for Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, both hitting about a 265, combined 48 home runs between the two of them. But then Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty are both up to 15 home runs, hitting for a respectable average. Jeff McNeil, 355 on base with 12 home runs. The catcher spot has been a little bit rough for this team, along Tyrone Taylor, but you're getting some relatively good production there. The Mets bullpen has been atrocious recently, though, bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of VRA ever since the trade deadline, as Ryan Helsley has not been what they were hoping for. You've actually gotten some good production out of Gregory Soto along with Tyler Rogers, both of these guys posting up a sub-225 ERA, though I do think that Soto, sooner rather than later, is going to start pooping the bed. From there, you've also got Justin Hagenman, who's giving you a 3.05 ERA. We've seen a bit of regression with Reed Garrett and a little bit of injury there. Oscar Brzobin just has not been great recently, but Edwin Diaz has obviously been rock solid. And for the Reds, this is about a league average bullpen. Emilio Pagan gives up too many homers, but he and Tony Santillan, a sub-350 ERA. Scott Barlow, as a reliever, has been solid. As a starter, not so much, but he's been able to give you some good innings when he's been coming out of the bullpen. The start that he had that actually jacked up his ERA a little bit, but Brent Suter's been a little bit up and down. In the end, I do think that the Reds should be a little bit of an underdog because you don't necessarily have that one super duper power bat, but just everyone, it feels like, knows their role. They're moving the line right now. Like Ellie De La Cruz is your main man with 19 home runs, and he's been stuck on 19 home runs for quite a while, but gives you those 32 plus stolen bases, about a 340 on base. But then you got a lot of guys around him that just find a way on. Gavin Lux, TJ Friedel, both above a 355 on base. Cabrian Ace, since joining the team, has been hitting at 275. Navoli Marte, he's been able to give you 12 bombs, hitting at 290. So in the end, I do think that the Reds, they do find a way to be able to get the job done here as a slim underdog at a plus 107 or higher. I'm going to be taking a look at them on the money line. Think that this is a well-pitched game as well. Some might tell it at 8.4, like the under. 957, 958 on the card. The Brewers are on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos, and Brandon Woodruff is on the bump for the Brewers. Brewers are between minus 150 to minus 164 favorites. Plus 134 to a plus 139 is that number on the Pirates, and the total is 8 over and under are both at minus 110. If you're looking to lay run after the Brewers, currently you're going to be finding that at a plus 114. I set their money line price at a minus 149. I was willing to go plus 114, ironically enough, or higher with the Brewers. So it is my absolute bare bones minimum buy point there for Brandon Woodruff. The whiff rate has been really nice with him. He does have a 369 ERA, has given up a combined 13 runs, 10 of which have been earned in his last two starts against the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays, so less than savory there, but 11.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's got a lower fielding dependent at 357 than his 369 ERA. The 1.3 home runs per 9 innings a little bit concerning, but only 2.3 walks allowed per 9 innings. He faces off against the Pirates team that is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat and a per-game basis. Only 3 guys on the lineup with over 8 home runs this season. Brian Reynolds, Andrew McCutchen, along with Oneil Cruz, and Cruz is a part of a cavalcade of different guys. He, Henry Davis, Alexander Canario, Jared Trollo, just so many guys hitting at 226 or lower for the team. You've had the likes of Tommy Pham, Spencer Horowitz, Nick Gonzalez hit above a 255, but they DFA Isaiah Canero-Falefa, so that's an issue. They Pirates have been able to get Joey Bart back as he's been banged up all season long, so that helps out a little bit as well. But for the Brewers, this team actually leads the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home with about 5.6 runs per game. Not necessarily due to power, because you've only got one guy that has more than 18 home runs. That'd be Christian Yelich, and he wasn't even in the starting lineup yesterday. He's right now dealing with a little bit of ailment, but Jackson Trio, William Contreras, along with Bryce Strang, all with at least 17 home runs, all hitting at least a 260. Andrew Vaughn in a Brewers uniform has been able to give you darn near 350 on base, and then you've got Isaac Collins give you over 370 on base. You've had Joey Ortiz be a little bit of a letdown in this lineup, but even Caleb Durbin has been rock solid, and this is a Brewers bullpen that, without Trevor McGill, it's been a little bit rough for them, but that said, you've got quite a few guys that are still able to go out there, hold down the fort, like a Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Grant Anderson, who's been dealing with a little bit of injury as well. He's still on the injury list, who'll be able to give you a sub-325 ERA. DL Hall as a long guy, about a 340 ERA, and then on the flip side for the Pirates, you've had Isaac Manson and Dennis Santana be able to supply a sub-250 ERA. From there, it's been a little bit shaky because guys like Braxton Ashcraft that began the season in the bullpen, they're now being utilized as starters. You don't mess with Yohan Ramirez, has been messed with very much so. He and Colin Holderman have been posting up above 5 ERAs, but in the end, I do think that for the Brewers, they should be able to get to Mitch Keller, a guy that just has not been able to get a lot of swings and misses this year. Now, for Mitch Keller, he's done a nice job of being able to keep the ball in the yard, but I mean, this is someone that is only getting in the neighborhood about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.5 walks, 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, 4.21 ERA compared to a 3.80 fielding dependent, but he has given up now 3+ runs in each out of his last 4 starts, albeit the 4 runs that he gave up against Boston, they were all earned runs, but that's a roll that I say you've got with his Pittsburgh Pirates team. Did so by Till at 8.3. I like the over and the Brewers on the run line, 959, 960 on the card. It is the San Francisco Giants, and they're on the road. They're facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals as Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for the Cardinals, and Justin Verlander goes for the San Francisco Giants. Giants are between -120 to -132 favorites, +108 to a +113. That number on St. Louis, and total on this game is 8.5. The over and the under are any between -105 to a -115, and for the Giants, I did set them at a -131 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it here for Justin Verlander. Obviously, in terms of being able to pick up wins, this has not been a great season for him, and the 4.29 ERA is still a little bit less than savory, but 3.73 fielding dependent. He's not been terrible this year. He's still getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, which isn't quite Justin Verlander standards, but I mean, that's still relatively solid. He's been giving up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, hovering in the neighborhood about 3.2 walks per 9 as well, but he is also backed up by a bullpen that still is in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Now, they do trade away Camilo Duvall, Tyler Rogers at the trade deadline, and they've been dealing with a myriad of injuries as well, but a lot of these guys have still been able to come through and have been able to give you good production. Randy Rodriguez being the main of them, he's been able to give you a sub-175 ERA. Him going on the injury list, that does hurt the team quite a bit, but now you've got Jose Buto, a little bit of a long guy, give you a sub-350 ERA. Joey Lucchesi has been solid. Matt Gage has been able to be a nice pickup as well, and for the Giants, this has been a bunch that has been much better with their offense when they've been away from home rather than at home. San Francisco, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball, just under 4 runs per game at home for the Giants compared to about 4.66 runs per game away from home. And all of a sudden for the San Francisco Giants, Rafael Devers has been able to get back online as he had a really brutal start for the San Francisco Giants early on, but he's now been able to give the team 15+ home runs ever since getting to San Francisco. His on-base percentage since joining the team back above about a 355, so he's been able to do a solid job. Willie Adames not hitting for any average, but he's up to 26 home runs, so the contract's starting to look a little bit better there. So you still have some guys at the bottom of the fold. The entirety of the catcher spot, Luis Matos said, needs to pick it up a little bit, though Christian Cos, whenever they've given him opportunities, he's been able to about a 250. Eloy Ramos has been able to do a solid job of moving lines, so with the Giants, this is a team that has been able to do a pretty rock solid job away from home, and for the St. Louis Cardinals, flat out, this has been a bad offense ever since the All-Star break. They have been a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game since the break. You do still have Wilson Contreras, who's been able to give you 20 home runs, about a 340 on base. He's been solid. Alec Burleson, 16 bombs with about a 340 on base, so these 2 guys have been coming through for you, but it's really been the young guys that have been the letdown for this team. Victor Scott is right now dealing with injury, but he, Pedro Pages, Nolan Gorman, Jordan Walker, Nathan Church, so many guys hitting at 230 or less. Now, you have had Gorman be able to hit 14 home runs, but still, you need a little bit more average out of him. Lars Nootbaar has been picking up recently since coming off the injury list. He's been able to give you above a 330 on base, so that's something that you'd like to see in Ivan Herrera, up to about 370 on base. Cardinals bullpen, honestly, has been relatively solid. They traded away Ryan Helsley, which right now is looking like a really good decision, and you still have the likes of Matt Savanson, Riley O'Brien, Kyle Leahy, guys like this who have been able to supply a sub-305 ERA, but Andre 3000 Palan, man, it feels like he's given up 3,000 runs a game. Just not a guy that's going to generate a lot of swings and misses. He's up to a career high, about 1.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He's only getting 6.3 strikeouts, so about 3 walks per 9 innings, 5.38 ERA. Feeling independent is a skosh lower than that, but this guy is just on an absolutely brutal run right now. Like, in the entire month of August, he was just getting lit up and lit up and lit up. He gave up, at the very minimum, 4+ runs at each out of his last 5 starts, so I mean, things are not great there, and I do think that the Giants get to him, get the job done. I did set the Giants here on the money line at a -131, so I'm going to be willing to lay that in. I did set my total at an 8.7, so here at the 8.5, I'm also going to be in on this total over. 961, 962 on the betting board. They made this one an adventure as it's the Slime Diego Padres. They hit the road. They're facing off against the Colorado Rockies. As of right now, it is to be determined on the bump for the Colorado Rockies, and it is to be determined on the bump for the San Diego Padres. So this is a game that's off the board. Now, the projection on ESPN is McKay Brown going for the Colorado Rockies, and that's the same projection that I'm seeing at CBS Sports. Meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, a little bit more murky, and that's why this game is off the board, as it's expected to be Michael King coming off of the injury list. And if you do have Michael King coming off the injury list, I would be setting the Padres in that neighborhood about a minus 250, minus 255 on the money line. Would probably be going in that neighborhood about a minus 165 with regards to the run line. If it's not Michael King, probably looking at more like a minus 215 or so. And then the run line probably in the neighborhood about a minus 135 to a minus 140. And with the total King versus McKay Brown and 11 or less, I'm going to be looking at the over a 11.5 or higher. I'll be taking a shot on that total under. And if it's pretty much anyone not named Michael King, an 11.5 or less, I'm going to be looking at the over a 12 or higher. I'll be in on the under. With Michael King, really didn't have too much of a rehab assignment because most of these AAA teams, they really just end in like late August, early September as well, so that's a little bit of an issue. He's only made one minor league rehab appearance through all of the injuries that he's had thus far this season, so I don't think that he's going to go long in this game, but I don't think that would be the world's worst thing if you don't get a lot of King, who's got a 281 ERA. When he's been healthy this season, has been getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings because the San Diego Padres are number one in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and that's what I'm banking on much more than King himself, as you've got so many guys that are able to come out there, give you multiple innings like Adrian Morejon, David Morgan. Both of these guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've had great production all season long out of Jason Adam, who's been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Jeremiah Stroud has been a little bit up and down, but he's finding it once again, so I think the team is going to be just fine with that regard. The big thing for the Padres is their offense has actually not been great. They've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run production and in terms of home runs per at-bat. They're a bottom 5 team in all of baseball. Ramon Laureano, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado have been able to give you 19 to 22 home runs apiece, and all three of these guys at least a 344 on base, all hitting at least a 260 for the season. Gavin Sheets has been rock solid as well, 18 bombs, about a 330 on base out of him, and I will say for Xander Bogaerts, you expected maybe a little bit more power than 10 home runs, but he's been moving the line. He's been able to give you a 330 on base. Jake Cronenworth is finding a way on. He's up to about a 371 on base, so the batting average still sub 250, and for the Colorado Rockies, even when they're at home, they're only averaging in the neighborhood about 4.6 runs per game. That's hardly above average in the big leagues. Hunter Goodman, well, he has been a good man for this team. 27 home runs. Ironically enough, has hit a few more home runs when he's been away from home rather than at home this year, and this is an offense that very much does improve when they are at home, as you've got Goodman, Brenton Doyle, Mickey Moniak, all between 10 and 11 home runs at Coors this year, and in the case of Moniak and Doyle, both hitting at least a 300 at home, along Jordan Beck, who's been able to do a nice job, give you a 361 on base, but even some of these guys like a Kyle Farmer, Orlando Arcia, they just have not been able to give you a lot of production when they've been with the team, and for the Rockies, this is a bullpen that is the opposite of the Padres. They are 29th of the big leagues in terms of ERA. Victor Vodnich, Jimmy Herget have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA, and Duggan Darnell has been able to give you like a 4 ERA, but then you got so many guys that just have not been able to produce for this team. Anel Shavili, Seth Halverson when he's been out there, he's out with a little bit of injury. Ryan Rolson, Anthony Molina, guys like this, posting up an ERA that is well above a 5, and McCade Brown should be indeed the guy that you get in this game, and he never started above the AA level, was solid at the AA level, but I mean, he's made 2 starts thus far, 7 2/3 innings. He's got an 8.22 ERA. Not a guy that's necessarily going to blow you away with the swing and miss stuff. Has really struggled in terms of command, giving up 5 walks in those 2 starts, and do think that the Padres should be able to get to him relatively good. So if you do get King versus Brown, 11 or less to the over, 11.5 or higher to the under. If it's not King, 11.5 or less to the higher, 12 or higher to the under. And then for the Padres, with King on the bump, minus 168 is what I'd set that run line at. If it's not King, probably more like a minus 135, minus 140 or so, as I did set the Padres at a minus 257 money line. Do not anticipate myself betting the Rockies, and I am seeing some reports of Randy Vasquez going, so probably will be looking more like a minus 140-ish if you do indeed get Randy Vasquez, and then it will be a case where the 11.5 or less will be in on the over at 12 or higher to the under. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Toronto Blue Jays on the road against the New York Yankees. Luis Eel is on the bump for the Yankees, with Chris Bassett as the hook, line, and sinker for Toronto. Right now the total is 9, the over is minus 115, the under is minus 105 for the Yankees. Between minus 135 to minus 145 is that money line price. Between plus 118 to a plus 125 is that number on Toronto. And when it comes to the Blue Jays, I did set them at a plus 159. Chris Bassett just has not been great on the road thus far this season. As for Bassett, overall for the season, the 4.12 ERA is not necessarily too bad. He's given up 1.3 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings, but he has had some very demonstrative home and road splits. As at home, he's been able to go out there and get the job done with a 2.76 ERA, 8 at home, 3 and 7 with a 5.82 ERA on the road. And on the road, he is giving up about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Now for Luis Gil, it's been a case where he has been just giving out too many walks, and that's been Luis Gil throughout his career. He's up to 5.8 walks per 9 innings, but he's limiting hard contact, 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, only getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but the swing and miss stuff has been up. Last 2 starts across 10 and a third innings, he was able to get 12 punch-outs, and he's given up 1 or 2 runs in each out of his last 5 starts, and it's against solid teams like the Red Sox, the Houston Astros, Washington Nationals. It's just a little bit neither here nor there, but still has been able to do a nice job holding down the fort. And for the Yankees bullpen, I recognize that it's been up, down, all around, and they had to go to a very early yesterday, but you know, you still have some rock solid guys I think are going to be able to give you some good production. As for the Yankees, you've got Luke Weaver, along with David Bednar, who have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Yuri De Los Santos has had a little bit of a tough time since coming off the injury list, but you've also been able to get some relatively good innings as well out of Fernando Cruz, who just came off the injury list. Ian Timmel, sub-3.25 ERA. Devin Williams is just a disaster. But for the New York Yankees, you've also got so much firepower with this lineup, as well as in a typical day, you're going to have all but one of the players in the starting lineup with at least 16 home runs. And for Giancarlo Stanton, he's all up to 19 home runs at like 190 at-bats, 365 on base. You do have a pair of guys that are just not aiming for a lot of average, and Anthony Volpe, along with Austin Wells, both of these guys 19 to 20 home runs apiece, but sub 275 on base. Ryan McMahon, since he joined the New York Yankees, has been pretty rock solid, as with the Colorado Rockies would always have big home and road splits just because of going to and from elevation. With the Yankees, has been able to give you about a 341 on base, so you like to see that, not necessarily hitting for a ton of power, but that's why you've got Aaron Judge, over 42 home runs, 440 on base. He has been able to do an amazing job, and Blue Jays, since the All-Star break, are the number 1 team in the American League in terms of run production. Obviously, George Springer has been a big catalyst for this. 400 on base, 27 home runs. He has been amazing. Flagger Jr., not necessarily the power season that you're looking for, and 22 home runs, but still giving you 390 on base. Bo Bichette is sitting above a 300 with 16 plus home runs. Don't call his name. Leander Kirk has been able to 300 earning flow man. These guys are doing a nice job, and for the Blue Jays, this has been a bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA since the All-Star break, as you've had a lot of guys that have been pretty rock solid all season long. Louis Varland, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, since the All-Star break, posting up an ERA well above a 450. Rayden Fisher has been one of your biggest constants for this team with a sub-3 ERA, but I think Jeff Hoffman has had a season to forget. Whenever Chad Green has been out there, it's been less than savory, to say the least. So I do think that the Yankees should be able to go out there, get the job done here against the Blue Jays, set their money line price at minus 159, so willing to lay that, and did so by total 9.3. I think the Eel is going to be hurt a little bit by the walk, so I'm also in on the over. 965, 966 on the card. The White Sox hit the road to face off against the Detroit Tigers. Tariq Skubal is on the bump for the Tigres, and Martin Perez is on the bump for the White Sox. White Sox are very heavy underdogs, anywhere between plus 247 to a plus 267, minus $3, so minus 320 is that number on Detroit. 7.5 is the total, under is minus 120, and the over is even. At a plus 258 or higher, I was willing to take a shot on the Chicago White Sox on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run F right now with the Detroit Tigers, that's between minus 135 to a minus 140, and my threshold for that was minus 130. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the White Sox, which I know is pretty outlandish, and maybe I'm a little bit wackadoo for thinking this, but like the first 75 to 80 innings that Martin Perez has thrown over the last like 3 or 4 years have always been solid. He comes off the injury list, so he's still below that threshold right now, and he's actually been really good for the White Sox. 2.16 ERA, fielding independent of a 3.12. His strikeout stuff is up, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowed 2 home runs in 41 and 2/3 innings this season. Since coming off the injured list, he's made 4 total appearances, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in this time span. He's actually been really good, and for the Detroit Tigers, this is a bullpen that since the beginning of the month of June have been in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, so even Tariq Skubal continues to be amazing, which he's got a 2.18 ERA, fielding independent, very much in line with that. He's getting 11.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up less than 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. He's giving up less than 1.7 walks per 9 innings. So, I mean, obviously, he's going to go out there and do his part. But, I mean, this bullpen has a lot of question marks. Brendan Enfield has been solid, 3.12 ERA. Why they've had Brent Herter down at the minor league level, I have no idea. Will Vest has been solid, 2.70 ERA. But, I mean, Tyler Holton has been having his issues. You've had just a lot of strife in general with regards to some of these ancillary guys. Chase Lee had to get sent down to the minor league level. Troy Melton has turned out to be a relatively good long guy. But, I mean, you've got a lot of question mark with regards to this bullpen. Tommy Kahnle has been terrible, and for the Tigers, they've got good consistency at the lineup, as you've got so many guys that are hitting in that neighborhood of, we're going to call it about a 257 to a 265-ish, and I mean, pretty much all these guys hit between 11 and 14 home runs. Juancio Perez, Dylan Dingler, Cole Keith, Gleyber Torres, Javi Baez, all these guys have been rock solid, and then you have a trio of matchers, Kerry Carpenter hitting a 255 with 23 bombs, Riley Green over 30 home runs with a 270, Spencer Torkelson averages in there, but 332 on base, 28 home runs. So, this is a top 8 team with regards to run production. But if you look since the All-Star break, the Chicago White Sox have actually been able to hit relatively solid. I'm not going to say that they have been amazing, but they've actually been like a top 7 team with regards to their offense. Edgar Quiero, Kyle Teal, both of these guys at the catcher spot, running above a 270. Lennon Sosa has been able to about a 265 with 19 home runs. And then you've got a quartet of guys, Ender Benintendi, Miguel Vargas, Luis Robert, and Colson Montgomery, all between 14 and 17 home runs. Now, none of these guys hitting above a 245, and Vargas is the lone of the guys above a 310 on base. He's right now dealing with injury, and you still have the likes of Brooks Baldwin not really moving the line. Michael A. Taylor has been an issue, but it's an offense that has been a little bit improved. Now, for the White Sox, they themselves have their bullpen issues, so Mike Vasil has been a really good long guy, being able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I like what I've been seeing out of Steven Wilson as well. He's been able to rock about a 3.12 ERA. Dan Altavilla being on the injury list has been hurting them, but Wilkman Gonzalez, a sub-2 ERA, he's been a nice find for this team. The shorter guys like Brandon Iser, Tyler Gilbert, Cam Boucher, these guys have been posting up above a 4 ERA, but I do think that the money line price has gotten just a little bit thick here. I'm willing to take a plus 158 or higher with White Sox in what I think is a low-scoring game, so I total 7.3, so like the under and the Sox on the money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Guardians are on the road against the Rays, as you've got the Wizard of Boz, Shane Boz, on the bump for the Rays, and Tanner Bybee goes for Cleveland. Cleveland is right now an underdog of anywhere between plus 118 to a plus 122, minus 132 to a minus 144 is that number on the Rays. 8.5 is the total, under is minus 120, and the over is even, and set my money line price at a minus 125. Right now, if you're looking to lay run half with the Tampa Bay Rays, you're going to be finding that in the neighborhood of about a plus 150 or so. If we can get this up a few pennies higher, if we can get this more around about a plus 158, I'd be willing to take a shot there, as I would need to be getting a little bit closer, about a minus 125 with regards to this money line. But for Tanner Bybee, this has been an almighty bad run. Do I think that he's doing for a little bit of positivity? Yes, mainly because it just can't get much worse, as he has posted up for the season an ERA that is a 4.77 with 1.5 home runs, 7.9 walks per 9 innings, but he's allowed at least 4 runs in each out of his last 8 starts. His ERA balloons up to a 5.64 on the road as well. And for Shane Boz, it sounds like he's been the Mona Lisa Vito of pitching as well. 4.98 ERA, 1.6 home runs, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, and that goes to a 6.47 ERA with 2.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings at home. So, pair of teams are rough with that regard. Pair of teams are in the upper half of the big leagues with regards to their bullpen ERA as well. For the Cleveland Guardians, they've had a lot of effectiveness ever since Emmanuel Clase got called under investigation, as likes of Eric Sabrowski, Jacob Junis, Kobe Aller, Nick Enright, they've all been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They want to make sure that they're not under investigation, and they're doing their part there. And Fat Hunter Gaddis be a little bit up and down, posting up a 3.50 ERA, but overall this is a solid bullpen. I'll need to get Zach Kent going a little bit more, but do like what I'm seeing there. And for the Guardians, this has been a rough offense. You've got Jose Ramirez with 27 bombs, hitting for a 355 on base. Kyle Manzardo, not the greatest with regards to the average at a 232, but 315 on base, 25 bombs. Steven Kwan has been able to give you 10 home runs, but then you just have so many different guys that just have not been able to for this team. Brian Rocchio is actually up to a 233 average, and that's considered relatively good for this lineup, because then you look at likes of Nolan Jones, Daniel Schneemann, CJ Kayfus, Jonathan Rodriguez, Austin Edges, John Kenzie Doel, David Fry, so many guys hitting a 215 or lower. Now for the Tampa Bay Rays, the entirety, the catcher spot has been an issue for them all season long, and then you got the shortstop spot with Taylor Walson Company. That's not necessarily been too amazing, but Junior Caminero slow, getting out 40 home runs, hitting for a 265. You've had Brandon Lau get loud. He's also hitting a 265 with 28 bombs. Andy Diaz, 350 on base. He's been able to slug it out 22 times. Jake Magnum, he's been able to do a solid job in terms of moving the line, along with Chandler Simpson. Both of these guys hitting between a 290 to a 296 with Simpson. 39 stolen bases, 22 stolen bags for Magnum. You've had a little bit of inconsistency at the bottom of the fold, but these guys have been solid. And for the Rays, why they've got Eric Orze down at the minor league level, I have no idea. Edwin Uceta has been okay as a long guy with about a 3.75 ERA, but your main two guys, Pete Fairbanks along Garrett Clevenger, both of these guys supplying a sub 3.15 ERA. Cole Sulzer has been down at the minor leagues as well. Instead, they've been going with the likes of Brian Baker, Griffin Jacks, who was the opener yesterday, so that's been a little bit of an issue, and I do think that you're going to get a high-scoring game as a result in this one sub. I told 9.1. I'm in on the money line, and with the Rays, if we can get more like a minus 125 on the money line, or I'm going to call it plus 158 on the run line, we'll be looking there. We do need a little bit of movement there. I'm actually seeing a plus 158 on the run line of the Rays, so we'll be looking there, and I'm going to be in on this total over as well. 969, 970 on the card. It is the Twins. They're going to be on the road against the Kansas City Royals, as Stephen Kolek is on the bump for the Royals, and Joe Ryan goes for the Minnesota Twins, and the Twins are between a -110 to a -115 favorite, and between even money to a -105, that number on the Royals with a total of 8.5, unders -120, and the overs even, and for the Twins, set them at a -108 on the money line. Right now, I am seeing a few like -110s out there. If we can get this down to like 2 or so pennies less, I'll be willing to buy in on that money line. If you're looking to lay a run off, you're actually finding that at about a +150 to a +155, and if worse comes to worse, if I can get a +152 or higher, we'll be looking there, but in some form of capacity, going to be looking at the Twins on the money line here. Joe Ryan is just a guy that I do want to be backing. Throughout his career, has had a little bit of an issue giving up the home run ball when he's been away from home, but he's been better with that this season. Is coming off of a pair of starts against the Blue Jays and the Athletics that were less than savory, where he gave up 11 runs, but bounced back last start against the Padres with 7 scoreless innings, and for the season, 3.08 ERA, 3.30 fielding independent, giving up just 1.1 home runs at 1.7 walks per 9 innings while getting 10 punch-outs per 9. Faces off against the Royals lineup that, no doubt, they have been much better ever since the All-Star break, but still a team that has been in the bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of their overall run production. You've got Vinny Pasquantino, who has been obviously very good. He's been able to supply this team with 28 home runs. Salvador Perez, 23 home runs, so he's not hitting for a lot of average. Miguel Garcia has been your really under-the-radar guy. 355 on base, hits his 16th home run of the season yesterday. Mikey Yastrzemski already has 4 leadoff home runs since the Royals traded for him, and Bobby Witt Jr. over 20 bombs, 350 on base. He's been rock solid, but now they're getting back Jack Caglione. I don't know if that's a good thing. John Ravo, they sent down to the minor leagues. Michael Massey, these guys hitting at 225 or lower. The bottom lineup has not been great. And for the Minnesota Twins, this is a relatively gutted lineup as well that has power. Like Matt Wallner is able to give you 20 home runs. Cody Clemens, he's been able to give you 14 bombs, but both of these guys are hitting below a 210 with Clemens, 281 on base. Lucas Schell has been able to give you about a 420 on base. He's been rock solid. And then Trevor Larnage, he moves the line with about a 330 on base. I love what Byron Buxton is providing, 29 home runs, 330 on base himself, but the catcher spot has become a big giant issue for the Minnesota Twins, and so has this bullpen. This is a bullpen that has been in the bottom 8 in the big leagues all season long, and man, you just take a look at these guys, and they're all not trustworthy. Likes of Cody Funderburk, Justin Topa, Cole Sands, Brooks Kriske, Michael Tonkin. They're pretty much all give you above a 375 ERA, and for the Kansas City Royals, Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves, great 1-2 punch, both give you a sub-3 ERA. You've been able to get a lot of production as well out of more of these ancillary guys like Daniel Lynch coming off the injured list, John Schreiber. These are guys give you a sub 335 ERA, so I do think that they're going to be rock solid with that regard, and I do think that this is going to be a relatively low scoring game because Stephen Kolek, I think, is going to be able to give you a presentable start here for the Kansas City Royals. As he began his season with the Padres, they were part of a little bit of a switcheroonie, and they got Ryan Burchard as well, who I really like for this Kansas City Royals team, by the way, but when it comes to Kolek, not a guy that's going to blow you away with his swing and miss stuff or anything like that, only getting about 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings this year, but doesn't hurt himself. 0.8 home runs, 2.7 walks allowed per 9 innings, 3.99 ERA. Fielding independent, that is very much in line with that, and in his first start with the Royals, he gave up just 1 run in 6 innings at home against the Detroit Tigers. So I set my money line price at a -108. Whether it be money line or run line, we'll be looking at the Twins here, and I'm going to be in on that 8.5 under. 971, 972 on the card. It is the Astros, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Walker Texas Rangers. Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers, and Hunter Brown is on the bump for the Astros. Right now, the initial opener has the Astros at a -116, -102 on the Rangers, and seeing a total of 6.5. Over is -110, and the under is -110, and I can't quite go to a 6.5. I set my total at a 7.1, so I'm going to be in on the over here, as you've got two guys that are obviously very rock-solid pitchers, but I do think that this has gone down a scope too far, especially with the Rangers, averaging over 5 runs per game since the beginning of the month of July. Fully recognize that this is a bit of a banged-up lineup as they're dealing with an injury to Corey Seager. They've been dealing with Marcus Semien being in and out of the lineup over the last few weeks as well, but you still do have a guy in Rowdy Tellez that ever since he joined the lineup has been able to hit above a 250 for this team. Kyle Gallegiokas since the beginning of the month of July, he's hitting above a 300. You've been able to get some production out of Josh Young. Wyatt Langford is up to a 340 on base with 21 home runs, so I do think that these guys should be able to rise up a little bit. And for the Astros, this lineup has been a bottom 3 lineup in the big leagues in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break. I believe that they're dead last in the American League, but Jose Altuve still gives you 25 bombs with a 330 on base. Yordan Alvarez, he's back in the lineup. Hasn't necessarily hit the deep ball too much, but he'd still give you for the season a 371 on base. Carlos Correa has been solid in moving the line. Victor Carantini, both hitting about a 270, and Jeremy Pena at the top hitting above a 300 has been solid. And Hunter Brown around, has been able to do a really good job with his swing and miss stuff. 10 strikeouts to about 2.7 walks per 9 innings, 234 ERA. The only pennant is a little bit higher than that. And for Jacob deGrom, had a little bit of a doldrum period in like late July/early August, but feels like he's back on the straight and narrow. He's given up a combined 2 runs over the course of his last 3 starts, albeit only 15 total innings in those starts. But he's still rocking and rolling. 9.6 strikeouts to 2 walks per 9 innings with a 269, very nice ERA. So love to see that. Both of these teams have been solid in their bullpen, but for the Houston Astros, having Bennett Sosa launched Josh Hader out of the fold, that does hurt them quite a bit. Now Caleb Orch just hit the injured list as well. That means that you're going to see more Craig Kimbrell. That's not a place where you want to be. And you've got the likes of the Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, both of these guys being able to give you sub-3 ERA. Stephen Okert right around about a 3 ERA. So these guys have been solid, but it's very much a team that's getting a little bit gutted there. And for the Texas Rangers, it's been a little bit up and down for Robert Garcia, but Chris Martin, Hobie Milner, along Sean Armstrong, these are guys that have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA overall for the season. And I do think that DeGrom, just with him being at home, deserves to be getting a little bit of a slight advantage here. I did set the Rangers at a minus 109, like them on the money line, and I'm going to be in on this total over as well. So I tell it 6.9, 973, 974 on the card. The Athletics are on the road against the Angels. You say Kikuchi, I say that he's starting for the Angels, and JT Ginn-Juice is on the bump for the Athletics. The Athletics who find themselves between plus 118 to plus 125 underdog. Minus 130 to minus 144 is that number on the Los Angeles Angels. 9 is the total. Over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. And on the Angels, I set them at a minus 147 on the money line. With Yusei Kikuchi, the walks are an issue. He's been giving up 3.7 walks per 9 innings and has been in a little bit of a funk recently. At least 4 runs allowed in 4 out of his last 5 starts, but has been a completely different pitcher at home. 230 ERA with 2.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, while JT Ginn, he's been much better on the road. A 5.17 ERA, 2 home runs, 2.9 walks allowed per 9 innings for the season, but on the road, he gets the ERA down to a 3.38. And for the Athletics, that's just the way that this team has been this year, because Sacramento has just been a launching pad for all of these offenses. So when they get away from home, they've been a little bit more rock solid, though the bullpen is still leaving quite a bit of something to be desired when you have so many of these less than trustworthy guys like Oswaldo Bido, Elvis Alvarado, Tyler Ferguson. A lot of guys are posting up an above 350 ERA. That has not been great, to say the least, but this team has a quartet of guys that will give you at least 23 home runs, all hitting at least at 265, by the way, with Shea Langoliers. Shea Bangs, 29 home runs. He's been able to hit at 260. Brent Rooker, 27 bombs, hitting for about a 342 on base. Nick Kurtz is up to a 4 on base with his 28 home runs, and then Tyler Soderstrom, 23 home runs, and Jacob Wilson coming off the injury list, continue to hit above a 300. That's been rock solid. Though at the bottom of the lineup with the likes of JJ Bleday, when he's been out there, Gio Urshela, as he's been dealing with injury, and if I'm not mistaken, he got DFA'd towards the back half of the season. Guys like this have been a little bit rough. Kobe Thomas is a young guy who's been a little bit up and down, and for the Angels, it's an all or nothing team. This team is in the top 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, bottom 5 in terms of home on base percentage as well. So they're the Ward hitting 30 home runs with the 320 on base, and then Zach Neto 320 on base with 25 home runs. These guys have been solid, and Joe Adell is up to 33 home runs, hits at 241. Logan Hoppe, 220 average, 260 on base, but 19 home runs. You've got Mike Trout, 20 home runs, 362 on base, but hitting just a 230. These guys have just left a lot of something to be desired in terms of moving the line, getting on base, and the Angels obviously have a very suspect bullpen as well, though if you look since the beginning of the month of June, actually more like league average with regards to that bullpen ERA, as Andrew Chafin has come in, Kenley Jansen, Brockman Rollberg have all been able to give you sub 325 ERA now. You still have your doldrum guys, Ryan Zefrian, Reed Detmers, Jake Eater when he's gotten an opportunity, Sam Bachman. You just go down the list of guys that have provided an ERA above a 390. That's not necessarily great, but do think that Yusei Kikuchi gives another good start at home, so I might tell it at 8.8, so like the under and the Angels up to a minus 146 on the money line, 975, 976 on the card. It is the Orioles, and they play us the LA Dodgers, as Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Trevor Rogers is on the bump for Baltimore. And in Rogers' neighborhood is an underdog price of plus 118 to a plus 128, and between minus 136 to a minus 144. That number on the Dodgers with a total of 8.5, under is minus 120, and the over is even, and did make my total an 8.2, so I'm going to be in on this total under. For Trevor Rogers, I think that he is due for a little bit of regression. question, but man, this has just been a fairy tale season for him, as he was struggling at the AAA level this year, and then he comes up to the big league level, 139 ERA, not necessarily blowing you away with the swing and miss stuff either, 8.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's allowed 3 home runs in 90 and a third innings with 1.9 walks per 9. He has been absolutely magnificent, and he gets to go up against an LA Dodgers team that, yes, overall for the season, they're a top 5 offense in terms of run scoring, but without Max Muncy in the lineup, they're averaging less than 4.2 runs per game. It's very strange. Shohei Ohtani continues to give you over 40 home runs. He pitched yesterday, 385 on base, so that's rock solid. Freddie Freeman continues to give you 370 on base with 15 plus home runs. Andy Paz, he's been able to do a nice job hitting for about a 270. He's up to 24 home runs, but these guys have really struggled whenever Max Muncy has been out of the lineup. Will Smith has been out for the last few days as well, so that's something that you want to take note of. And for the Baltimore Orioles, this is a offense that's a whole lot better at home rather than away from home. For Baltimore, they've been registering about 4.8 runs per game at home, less than 4 runs per game when away from home, and they've gotten a lot of production out of Jeremiah Jackson, who's hitting well above 300. Not necessarily the world's biggest power hitter, but he's been able to hit a few bombs. Gunnar Henderson, along with Jackson all day, 15 to 16 home runs apiece, and Henderson has been able to give you about a 350 on base. Colton Cowser, Kobe Mayo, Samuel Basal, these are all guys in 215 or lower at the bottom lineup. That's been an issue, but Dylan Beavers, nice Beaver, he's been able to give you over a 400 on base. That's a Naked Gun line, by the way, which that's a great movie. But it's not been great has been the Orioles bullpen, which, yeah, this has not been great to say the least. Says you got the likes of Yennier Cano, Sean Dubin, and Grant Wolfram, Diedrich Enns, a lot of guys out there that are supplying an ERA well above a 4 overall for the season. Rico Garcia doesn't throw the ball over the mountains, but over the plate, 342 ERA. He's been a little bit better, but on the flip side for the LA Dodgers, it's been a suspect bullpen all season long, but now they're finally starting to get healthy. Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates, they both come off the injury list, so both of these guys have had their struggles thus far this season, as Ben Kasparis has, as well as pretty much all 3 of these guys are posting up an ERA above a 4. Michael Kopech coming back, though that should be rock solid. Alex Vesia hitting the injured list has been a little bit of an issue, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto has been a very effective pitcher this year. 282 ERA, feeling a pen that's very much in line with that, as his strikeouts per 9 rate is hovering right around 10. He does a nice job in terms of being able to limit damage as well. He's giving up well less than a home run per 9 innings, and you look at what Yamamoto has done on the road, 246 ERA, has allowed about 0.65 home runs per 9 innings. So I think that this is going to be a well-pitched game. Semi-total at 8.2, so like that 8.5 under, and at a plus 128 or higher, I do like the Orioles on the money line. 977, 978 on the card. The Mariners are on the road against the Braves, as Herson Waldrop goes for the Bravos, and it is one Mr. Bryce Miller on the bump for Seattle. Seattle's an underdog between plus 118 to a plus 127, minus 140 to a minus 150. That number on Atlanta, 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 120, and the under is even, and I did semi-total in an 8.6. I'm going to be in on the under. I really like the way that Herson Waldrop has been rolling thus far this season, as he has come up from the minor league level, and he's been a revelation. Now, do I think that he's going to be able to continue a 101 ERA? Probably not, but the just command has been great. When he got called up to the big league level last season, that was just all over the place. This year, 0.3 home runs, 2.8 walks allowed per 9 innings, albeit a small sample size of 6 total appearances, 5 starts in that just strange game out there at Bristol, but he's been able to do a really nice job of just holding it down, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and now he faces a Seattle Mariners team that is very much all or nothing. For the Mariners, are in the top 5 in terms of run production away from home this season, but if they don't hit the home run ball, you just don't know what you're going to get there. Cal Raleigh, 350 on base, obviously over 50 home runs, and Eugenio Suarez, 42 plus home runs, but since Suarez joined the Seattle Mariners, he's sitting right around about a 200. Randy Arozarena has seen his batting average dip to about a 240, though, so 336 on base, and he has supplied a lot of power with over 25 home runs. You've got over 25 bombs out of Julio Rodriguez as well. He's been able to about a 265, and then Tom Canzone moves the line for the team. Love to be able to see that, but Mitch Garver, Luis Rivas, you've got a few guys that have just been inconsistent, though Rivas, and his small sample size has actually been solid. And then for the Atlanta Braves, they're having to trot out their Nacho Alvarez, who's actually been able to give you a little bit of on base. Marcell Ozuna is down to a 227 average, but he, along with Van Olsen, both above a 355 on base. Both have been able to give you between 19 and 20 home runs apiece. Drake Baldwin and Sean Murphy at the catcher spot, 15 plus home runs apiece, and Baldwin continues to give you that 350 on base. Strickson Profar is up to a 360 on base, and for the Braves, ever since the All-Star break, this has been a team that's really been able to elevate and ascend in terms of their offense. They have been a team that's been actually in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of of run production ever since the break, and they go up against a guy in Bryce Miller who has had his struggles. I think that he's going to look a little bit better now because he's gotten a few starts off the injured list and coming off the IL in his first few starts. It was just very rough first few starts. Gave up a combined 8 runs over the course of 10 innings. Last start against the Cleveland Guardians looked a little bit better, albeit the Guardians not necessarily great offense, but 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. And for Miller, it's just swinging his stuff this year. Has been down 7 strikeouts per 9 innings while giving up 1.5 bombs per 9. Right now, I'm seeing like a minus 135 out there on the Braves. I set my money line price at a minus 139. I'm going to be willing to lay it, but I'm going to be in on this under because, for one, the Mariners are very much an all-or-nothing team, but they also have a solid bullpen. The likes of Gabe Spire, Edward Bazardo, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, all being able to give you a sub-3 ERA has been solid. And for the Braves, this has been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of July, but do think that there's a little bit of upside here. Raciel Iglesias has been pitching a little bit better recently. Have Dylan Lee is starting to see his ERA start to balloon up a little bit to a 3.5, but the Dodd-father, Dylan Dodd, has been able to give you some good innings. He's down to about a sub 3.25 ERA. And then Tyler Kinley since joining the team. Pierce Johnson, both giving you a sub 3 ERA. So I did set my money line price at a minus 139. Looking at the Braves here and on that 900, so I might sell it at an 8.6. And we're wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Red Sox are on the road against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Brandon Pfaadt looks to battle for the stakes, and Lucas Giolito is on the bump for Boston. And Boston does find themselves as a mid-sized favorite here, anywhere between minus 122 to a minus 126, between plus 104 to a plus 111 is that number on Arizona with a total of 9. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. And for the Red Sox, I did set them on the money line at a minus 128, so I'm going to go up to a minus 127 here. For Lucas Giolito, he had a relatively rough start to the season. That's why if you look at the overall season numbers, they're not necessarily eye-popping. 3.38 ERA, 7.5 strikeouts to 3.1 walks per 9 innings, fielding dependent of a 4.18, but he's just been able to round into really good form ever since he had that early June start against the LA Angels. I just still go back to that as a little bit of a turning point for him. He's actually been very rock solid. As you take a look at what he's been able to do ever since then, it's been about a 14 start stretch. He's been giving up a less than 2.45 ERA. He's been giving up less than 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. He's done a nice job keeping things out in front of him. And he's also done a better job on the walks, giving up fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings. And then for Brandon Pfaadt, he has been quite a bit better when he has been at home rather than when he's been on the road. But I mean, still, the record that he has at a 12-8 is very misconceiving. He's got a 5.33 ERA, 4.32 fielding dependent, so he's better than what the ERA would indicate. But 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's giving up only 2 walks per 9, but the 1.3 home runs per 9, and he's given up at least 3 runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, speaks to where he's been at. Now, in Arizona, Brandon Pfaadt has been a little bit better rather than on the road. At home, he's got a 3.66 ERA compared to a 7.13 ERA on the road. He's given up just 3 home runs in 76 and a third innings at home. This is a Red Sox lineup that is currently dealing with the injury to Roman Anthony, who is giving you darn near 400 on base, so that's going to be a little bit of an issue for them moving forward. But even without him, you saw plenty of firepower in this lineup. A lot of guys that are hitting in that neighborhood. We're going to call it about a 245 to 260. Trevor Story, Jarren Duran, and Carlos Narvaez. These guys have been pretty solid. Ceddanne Rafaela is another one of those guys. You are still missing Weiler Abreu, but Rob Refsnyder getting more at-bats is going to be a good thing. He's been able to give you above a 350 on base. Nathaniel Lowe has been able to give this team a little bit of pop since they picked him up as well. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this is still a top 8 team in the big leagues in terms of run production, albeit this is not the same team that you saw towards the beginning part of the season. But Gabriel Moreno is now back off the injury list. Geraldo Perdomo both hitting above a 275. Perdomo above a 380 on base. Same with Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, who had been going a little bit cold with the deep ball. He's back up to 25 home runs. Corbin Carroll's up to 29 home runs. They're going to be relying upon some of these young guys like a Tyler Locklear, Barossa out there in the outfield, along Jordan Lawler at the shortstop spot. These are guys that they just have not really been able to blossom quite yet. We'll see if they are moving forward. And for the Diamondbacks, this is a pretty atrocious bullpen. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Just not a lot of guys are coming through for this team, as they are now getting Ryan Thompson off the injury list, but the likes of Jalen Beeks, Kyle Bacchus, Jake Woodford, Bryce Jarvis, Brandon Garcia, a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA above a 4, and that's where the Red Sox really shine. They've been a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA, and you've had really the top closer in all of baseball, Aroldis Chapman, posting up a 1 ERA, and then you've got the Justin Slayton, Justin Wilson, Steven Matz, Garrett Whitlock, even Brandon Bernardino. All these guys give you a sub 3.45 ERA, so I do think that the Red Sox go out there, find a way to be able to get the job done. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 127 on that money line, and I did set my total at an 8.8, so here at the 9, I'm in on the under, and that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire into whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Big thanks once again to Tanner Kern, does great work over at DraftKings. You join me in the last segment, and I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast throughout the regular season into the postseason. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.